Hey, this is Troy Taylor with the Championship Football Coaches Clinic podcast, sponsored by Reps VR, First Down Playbook, Rack Coach, The Top Hopper, Sideline Design, Sports Workbook, and Tip of the Spear. Today, I have my great friend Marcus Mayo. He is a run and shooter. He most recently was the head coach in Northern Virginia, and he has started the Run and Shoot Coaches Association website. Marcus, how are you doing today? Tell us a little bit about how you got hooked up with the Run and Shoot.
I'm doing good, doing good. Always good to see you. And I'm amazed by the sponsors you rattled off, because when you first started doing the clinics 15 years ago, you're just trying to get people to buy pizza.
It was me and you.
Yeah, now you're crushing it. So I'm happy for you. That's awesome. Um, so the So, years ago, we talked about like the 15 or so years ago, just getting involved. Uh, I had reached out to a coach named Jerry Glanville, who everyone knows, a legend, and kind of cold called him. And this is like 2008, 2009 ish. And so I was a student assistant coach and video coordinator at the college level. And so I knew about it. I kind of had an idea on what the offense was, but I didn't really, understand it. And so I reached out to Glanville, and, he was kind and said, "Hey, I'm on the defensive side," which we all knew. He goes, "So I'm not able to help you as much as, you probably want." He said, so I want you to call the sun god. I'm like, what do you, who? What are you talking about? So he says, Coach Jeff Reinbold over at SMU. And I said, cool, I'll call him up. So he said, just call him up, tell him I referred you, and, you'll be fine. So I give Coach Reinbold a call. He coincidentally picks up on the first ring at the office, which is, regardless of era, does not happen. So we're talking for a moment. He's like, "Where are you at?" And I was like, "I'm in Montana." And, I'm just wondering if I could pick your brain on it, on how the run and shoot. And he goes, "Well, I'll tell you what, to start, come on, come on down here. If Glanville, come on down here." So I was like, "What do you mean? Just come on down?" I didn't have hardly any money to my name. I'm sitting up in the dorm room, and he's like, "Come on down." So I put everything I could together to, try to make the trip. And so I got down there, and he said, where are you staying?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go get, hotel room." He's like, "No, you're not. You're going to come stay with me." So brought in, he, gave me a room. It's like, you're staying with me. And so, long story short-ish, where our conversations began, and he first asked my interest. And what I told him was I was, really interested in, what captivated me was the way they played the game, in terms of the way it felt watching them. It was just a little bit different than a lot of different things that I had seen before, on TV, and it just kind of captivated my imagination. And most of our conversations, which I reflect on later, had very little to do with the scheme. He was talking about love, selflessness, compassion, ohana, aloha, and these different things. And a lot of my questions were geared toward that, but he really honed in on what that meant and what that felt like, and really what that was about. So for the first few days, there was no talk about run and shoot. He entered, and so we dabbled in it a little bit. He said, come by, another time. So I had went back. I can't remember if it was my second or third time visiting. my second, and we're talking some more, and he says, "Hey, I'm going to go. I have a meeting. He'll be right out." So I'm just sitting there, trying to watch film and figure, things out kind of on my own. I'm still not really, getting a whole lot. And so Coach Reinbold comes into the office where I'm chilling in his office watching film. And he goes, "Hey, come on, I want to introduce you to somebody." And I walk into the office and it's June Jones. And I'm like, for me, I was like, yo, this is June Jones. I had not, especially young in my career now, it's not a big deal for me, but I had not stood in front of a Division I football coach. And June's not a small guy either. So, he was an NFL quarterback. He's kind of a burly guy. And, I introduced myself. And funny thing is I say, "Coach, can I just give you a hug, man?" And he's like, "All right, sure." So he gave me a hug or whatever. And he goes, "I'll give me a," and which we still laugh about. And Jeff said, Coach Reinbold says, he goes, "Just give me a minute. Everything. I'll be down the office." So in my head, I'm like, "Man, I just met June Jones and everything. So, it's crazy." And he comes out of the office. He goes, "Hey, let's go." So we get dinner, have some Italian, head back to his place, and he goes, "All right, have a seat." And he goes, "I talked to June. You've been up here, talked to the other coaches," and he goes, "I just want to tell you that you're in. What do you want to know? And what we tell you can't go any further than what we talk about." And I was like, whoa, I should start rattling off every question under the sun that I had. But it taught me very early, and credit to Coach Reinbold and all those guys, Coach Morrison, Coach Swan, etc., that it was bigger than a scheme to them. But then they started teaching me what I want to know. And this was, 15 plus years ago now. And, they gave me materials that I needed to study, of course, gone over everything with me in person, etc. So that's kind of how I got involved, got started with it. And shortly after, I actually spoke at your clinic, the Championship Coaches Clinic.
2009.
2009. So it's kind of not coincidence, because we didn't even talk about this. It actually dawned on me while I was changing early this morning. I was like, coincidentally, the first time I spoke about the run and shoot in public was with Coach Taylor. And now talking about launching the site is with Coach Taylor.
I made my players go in there and sit and listen to you, because you were the last speaker, and they were amazed. They loved it. You had all those calls and checks, and they loved it, didn't they? I can still remember that. Can you?
Yeah, I remember. It was yeah, man, is great. There's nothing like. I mean, I love podcasts. There's nothing like those face-to-face clinics, and I always say the longer I coach, the more I realize I don't know. I think back then I knew a little bit more, because your brain is so empty. Like you're not trying to be an expert, if that makes sense. You're just kind of innocent minded. Sometimes I wonder if I knew more back then than I know now.
You definitely don't. You definitely didn't know more back then. But man, I think you're too stupid when you're young to even realize what you don't know. What is it? It isn't until it's what you learn once you know it all that really matters. So maybe Bill Walton or either Coach Wooden. So these guys let you into the cult of the run and shoot. And now you have the association. You have the website. How do they feel about this website coming out with all their information on it? Or is it not all the information?
So as time's gone on, and the reason I did it to answer that, and kind of what the backstory is, the cult, as they call it, or the mafia, as they call it, I wouldn't say there's more so the culprit. There definitely is. You'd say mafia is probably a little bit closer. There you could always hold clinics. You could always provide your players the info. You could always talk to your staff. But I think as it was going, there was still Hawaii going, there's SMU going, and there's a long history. There's a difference between being secretive and protective. And what I began to realize over time is there were so many people that wanted to learn, but because of the nature of how protected it was, or in some cases secretive, people kind of got turned off from really trying to learn. And Mouse and June were always very welcoming and open to teaching. That said, also being protected because they were still running it quite a bit. And so over the course of time, people would ask me, outside the clinic, hey, what can you provide me? So I can provide you what I'm doing at the clinic. I just can't really give you the film. I can't really give you the material. Now, as time's gone on, some people have, I guess, gotten some things and leaked some things, and that's fine. But in terms of the whole deal, or the I guess you'd say the meat and potatoes of it all, it was kind of kept, under wraps. And so as time went on with you and SMU, and I know June, when the XFL in 2020 happened, it's all right. The interest began to pick back up again with the XFL 2020, which unfortunately folded because of COVID. And they were off and running and doing amazing things. The PJ Walker, et cetera, that whole staff was doing great. And then COVID happened. Well, then the interest was there, but the league wasn't back. Then the Sea Dragons came back around, and I was fortunate enough to work training camp with June and company, and the staff on the offensive side during training camp. Well, the Sea Dragons do a good job. It's kind of back in the fold. It's kind of back in the media, and then the XFL folds the Sea Dragons, which to this day I don't. I'm sure there was a reason, but I don't understand. It was a great fan base, outstanding staff. Shout out to Coach Hazlitt and all of those guys. They were awesome people, treated me very well during the short time I was able to work with them. And I had gotten runandshootoffense.com many years ago. And then I never did anything with it because I knew that nothing could really be done with it. And so what I realized is there's two things in life I can't take with me, and that's money and knowledge. Mm. And so, in the game is about growing, about growing the game. Whenever I talked to Mouse, he always said, "Hey, when you get a chance, teach as many people as you can. Even if it's not your own team, just teach as many people as you can." And so,
wow, I got to say something about that, because he didn't say sell it to as many people as you can. Charge people $4,000 a year to as many people as you can. He said, give it away. Man, that's powerful.
So and I was actually with a coach named J. David Miller, the awesome coach and author of Hawaii Warrior Football, which is a great book if you want to know the culture and really everything what it's about. It's a great book to have. And I've talked to him a lot over the years, and he was just saying, hey, like, teach as many people as you can. And so, and while also understanding reasons to be, protective, so as I gain the materials and as I've, coached and become a head coach and people asking me, I began to really be interested in, hey, how much can I provide without it, I guess being too taboo. So I had text June, been a mentor of mine for a long time now, thankfully. And I said, hey, I want to start this association, and I really want to make this information accessible, and I don't want to charge for it. But what I would like to do is any donations that come in, I would like to donate to your association, the June Jones Association, and the Colt Brennan Legacy Fund. And then any extra stuff, kind of have for site upkeep, but it can go to good causes. I think people just really want to learn. And because I've felt over the years that people weren't always understanding as to why it was protected. And then there's been things way in the past where people have gotten turned off from it just being so secretive. Which is kind of in the opposite. Some of the air raid, like that stuff's been out. Like you can just go and get it, and so that offense grows, and the coaches grow, and all those, and it's more attractive. So, back a little bit.
I don't even think some people today even know what the run and shoot is. If you said this is the run and shoot, like automatically, I think Kevin Gilbride. I think route conversions. I mean.
Right.
How would you answer that if someone came to you and said, like, Marcus, tell me, like, what is your definition of the run and shoot? Because a lot of people claim to be run and shoot, but they're not run and shoot.
So there's it's a great question, because within the run and shoot, there's actually multiple families. Like you have, Mouse and June, you got Red Fott, Tiger Ellison, Coach Manning, triple shoot. So there's a lot of different areas, but to its core, from where everything Mouse branched off to, it's pushing the football vertically, pass first to set up the run, and always having the chalk last. Meaning, no matter what you line up defensively in your coverage, because we're going to throw the ball, we have an ability to adjust and be open. And if you're going through your reads correctly, protecting the quarterback, and you throw it, the outcome is we're always right. And so with that, a lot of people don't really understand how that actually works and how you actually go about approaching it. And so, to your point, it's not that people are always like, I don't want to run it. They don't exactly know what it actually is at its core. So I asked June if I could build this site, if he would endorse, if he got the okay. If he said no to me, I was going to say, all right, I'm not going to do it. You got Mouse and you got June. Those are the guys. And so June gave me the thumbs up, gave me the blessing, said, absolutely, let me know how I can help. He said, I hope you get paid for it. And I told him, I'm not gonna, that's not my goal, but he endorsed it, and was happy to help where he can. So to back to your main point, the site provides an opportunity for everyone to learn really the core essence of what it is, not just in terms of the scheme, but the philosophy, the mindset, and the approach you have to have really to run it. And so where the biggest misconception comes in is you're just throwing to throw. And the reality is it takes a great deal of study and discipline to run the system. And you're really trying to make the show about setting up your running game for success. And so you're really trying to get, do that vertically with the ability to adjust. And then there's many different ways that can happen. And depending on which branch you want to come from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the previous podcast that we did it's a small world. And when the previous podcast, when the guy made a comment about a professional football coach, that guy was actually your friend. And it's amazing the relationships that you have developed throughout your 15 plus years of coaching. Can you talk a little bit about those relationships, starting with your high school coach and then Bill Mountjoy, before we get really into the run and shoot?
Yeah. So my high school coach is Chris Beatty, receivers coach now for the Chicago Bears. Yeah, been a mentor of mine for years. Actually, when you mentioned that, my first infatuation with spread football and throwing the ball around was from him. And I think, for a lot of us, I think he really sparked our imagination at the time on what football could be, and there's nothing wrong with running traditional traditional offenses, God knows I've been crushed by every offense there is, and I've had my fair share of positives against different systems. Chris Beatty, Coach Beatty, it became known as Beatty ball, and he and still does such a creative mind to get the ball into his best players' hands, which is why I also loved the run and shoot. And one of the best things that happened to me was not being the best player. I wasn't, I was very fortunate to be a member of that state championship team, which is, I will say, one of the Mount Rushmore greatest teams of all time, with the greatest high school football player to ever come out of Virginia, Percy Harvin. And that's not debatable. So don't message me. I've been very, when you talk about a player's coach, it's not just the way Bay treats you on the field. Like you've been able to build a relationship with him for this will be year 20. Being able to be in touch with him and learn a lot from him. And if I had never met Beatty, I don't know that I would be coaching. I can say that. And
wow.
The Mount Joy, I'll never forget this. I can't remember if I had met Mount Joy before you or whatever the case was. It was right around the thing. And he had no. I met you, and then coincidentally, he had reached out to me through one of the websites, told me to give him a call. And then he was like, "Oh, there's a guy from." I was like, "Oh, I'm speaking at his clinic." And then we met Mount Joy together. It was something along those lines, which is crazy. And so, funny story with that. As you know, you spend 5 minutes with Mount Joy, especially as a young coach, you'll learn more football than you learned in your life in 5 or 10 minutes. It's insane. And so I was trying to kind of reinvent the wheel early on and learn, which I still try to do. I still try to learn, kind of how the game's evolved, and even how the league is doing things now, etc. And I remember I called him trying to ask him how to maximize all these formations, personnel, and I have, pile of papers and all these things I drew up. And he tells me, "Hey, so get out a piece of paper." I was like, "Okay, I got one. I'm ready." So I'm thinking he's going to give me all these notes. And of course, Mount Joy gives you the entire library. Speaking of a coach who just gives you everything, Mount Joy gives you everything. And he says, "Well, I know you're into the run and shoot." He goes, "But let me tell you how you can move some guys around in case you want to be more just one back." And in my brain, I'm like, well, run and shoot is one back, but there's one back to Mount Joy, and then there's one back to Mount Joy. And so get out this piece of paper, and he goes, "So just draw your spread, your run and shoot spread." And I go, "All right." He goes, "Now take that H." I go, "Okay." And he goes, "Now draw the H here." I go, "Okay." And he goes, "Now draw the H here. Now draw the H here. Now draw the H here." And I'm okay. And he goes, "Well, we'll get to the Y in a minute. The Y receiver." I go, "Okay." So I'm looking at it, and he goes, "Now look at your paper." He goes, "Okay, right there you have 15 formations by moving one man." And I'm like, boom, like mind blown by that, because we overthink the game so much. And he's like, you don't got to do a whole lot. Just move one player. You can still run the things that you want to do. And So went and spoke at the clinic, with you and him and Mountjoy for, in 15 plus years, has been there, always had my back, and he is one of the rare gems, still out there, OGs, and I think you and I both know that we're 1,000% better just for having known him. And you remember when we sat we went to his living room, and
which house?
Yeah,
which house was he at? His wife's, or was he at his girlfriend's?
It was Betty. I remember it was Betty.
Okay, nice.
And so we were there with Betty, and we've been in there for like 5 hours, and we're gassed. We're tired. We want to go get some wings. We want to, we're tired, but he's still going. And he says, "Oh, just one more thing." He pulled out those cassette tapes. What was it, with Sid Gilman and like Paul Brown, whomever it was, Sid Gilman, Lombardi, in a room together on audio tape, talking about the evolution of the passing game. And I remember I had all the energy in the world then at that moment. I was like, how? How does he? And so we're listening then for like, another hour, and he stops the tape and he's like, well, there's plenty more of that. But anyway, not, to stay on it too long.
You say how, and like, how does Bill Mountjoy get hooked up with Sid Gilman? How does Marcus Mayo get hooked up with June Jones? It's the same way, and it's the same legacy, man. And you're giving back, and that's what it's all about, man. Because the greatest teachers, I've been on this for a while now, the greatest teachers are the greatest learners. You can't be the greatest teacher. You can't be the best coach unless you're the best learner. You have to listen. You have to learn. And then it just oozes from you. You agree with me?
Yeah, you never stop. I guess that kind of goes back to the previous comment I had about the longer I coach, the more I realize what I don't know. The game moves fast, it evolves fast, and there's, especially with social media now and the rise of information, not just going to forums and exchanging emails and DVDs. Somebody pulls up a clip of a team. I was like, you think you got to figure it out, and then all of a sudden, offense, defense, special teams, somebody's done something that you never seen before, and that coach probably discovered that was done somewhere in the 1960s before in some capacity. So, I think the best part is being around those who study and understand the history of the game, and I think appreciating, regardless of scheme on either side of the ball, appreciating the history of what it is and respecting, what it is that they do, for sure.
So your website, how is it broke down? Like, if I was a young coach and I wanted to learn about the run and shoot, where should I start?
So if you want to start, and my answer is probably going to be a little unorthodox, begin to understand the culture of what the run and shoot was built on, and that goes back to Tiger Ellison. And what I mean by that is the original foundation of the run and shoot offense was designed after kids playing at a park. So Tiger Ellison is going through a really rough season. I can't remember if there was some kind of crisis happening in the city, but he's talking about how his players were going through a lot of depression, families in the community were going through a lot, and they're having a miserable season. And you're in Ohio, which, top 4 state for football to this day in terms of just passion for the game and all these things. And so he said he's been running a traditional system for a while. Nothing's working. And he sits down and he is just trying to take a deep breath. And he looks and notices these kids playing in a park. And he says he's just watching them. And what he notices is the quarterback who's running around, he's just running around left and right and throwing to his friends who are catching the ball and scoring touchdowns. And he realizes they're not huddling up. They're not calling a play. They're just having fun and getting open. So he said, wait a minute. If they can do that, why can't we do that? And how is anyone going to know what we're doing if we're just playing on the fly? So he goes back to the office and draws this thing up. His coaches think he's absolutely nuts. And players like, what's going on here? So he just tells, creates the concept, the lonesome polecat. So I'd studied the lonesome polecat to start. And they go out and I don't know, they like they're a great team of like 68-0 or something like this. And they basically run the table, win a state championship. And what you learn is the foundation of the offense is really about it being fun. It's about kind of the spirit of just being a kid, hanging loose, and being creative. And so I would start there to kind of understand what it's built on. Mouse took it to another level with creating it more refined against the way the game of football was evolving. Because Tiger Ellison Moore also ran the ball a lot more. Mouse would throw it 90 times if he was able to, with the goal of setting up the run.
How did Mouse learn it? Did he play for Tiger Ellison? Did he coach for him?
So Mouse got the book. One of his players actually they were at a clinic, and Mouse got the book, and Mouse saw it and began running it. But Mouse began to package it. And if you study them both closely, you'll see the relation of the systems. So Mouse started refining it more towards a pass first offense. So he had to make the rules more refined, where Tiger would come out could also run some option and some run game, a lot out of it. So he actually got the book, talked to Tiger, and began evolving the offense. Well, Mouse took off, and I guess the story goes, as Mouse told me, Tiger called him and told him to keep running the offense, because the more he does, the more books he's selling. So Tiger's book, Run and Shoot Offense, the Offense of the Future, which later became called the Now Attack. I started selling more books because of Mouse. And then originally, I think Mouse didn't even originally want to call it the Run and Shoot. That's where it kind of took off. So Mouse kind of like almost apologetic, was like, "Hey, I'm not trying to say that I'm inventing your offense." He's like, Tiger told him, "Go ahead. I'm selling a whole lot of books." So, and so then, yeah, right. I mean, absolutely. And so, Mouse had his disciples. Of course, June played for him at Portland State, and June just turned into what it is now. And so to continue studying from there, if you're able to get your hands on Mouse's old school run and shoot videos, I would watch those. Those are the best resource, I think, to this day to learning the core of it.
Are those on YouTube, or you have to buy them on eBay, or what?
I think some coaches may have copies of them. I think they were on YouTube at one time. I'm sure they can be found through trading in different things. They used to be very accessible. I've seen them countless times. I'll still watch them. A lot of people, all my coaches on my staff, that's the first intro to watching them. And then there is, it's not Mouse's direct playbook, but then there's a New York, New Jersey Knights playbook, which I'm actually going to send out to anyone who signs up. And it's been around for years, so many people probably have it. In fact, I'm sure they do. That goes through the offense, the core of it, very much verbatim verbiage, language, etc., on how to run it. That's where I started learning it, and it's helped me tremendously. It's still a resource that I use. So that's really where I would start. Would be if you can get a hand on a copy of the run and shoot book, it's worth it. Even the old school ones, they can be a little expensive. I think I saw one for like $100. Al Black, Coaching Run and Shoot Football, is another great one. Again, the Hawaii Warriors football book for understanding culture and how that works. And then June, from there, really with the history of the people starting to put their nose up at the offense for no reasons, and all the misconceptions and still the things that are false out there about it. June really catapulted it at Hawaii, and he's still responsible for the greatest turnaround in college football history. And of course, when you have guys like Timmy Chang, Colt Brennan, especially Colt, RIP, which is still kind of hard to process sometimes. They helped re-revolutionize the run and shoot and the attraction to it. And I think that core to this day is still what people have been attracted to in this generation. And it's kind of just taken off from there, and people really wanting to know what it is. And while June has put his own things to it, it's still at its core, going back to Mouse. And I think the spirit of the system still goes back to Tiger Ellison, and of course, that culture that June added to it. So I would study the culture just as much as I would the scheme.
So the website is going to be premiering tomorrow, and what can people expect to see when they go to your site?
So tomorrow I'm going to send out. Tomorrow I'm going to try to do a kind of a Google Meet or Zoom to introduce the site live. I'm going to give access to anyone who's signed up, and on the site you'll have kind of the mission behind and the purpose behind the website, which I know we'll get into a little bit more, and then you'll see history and culture and practice philosophy. Those things are up now. And then once you're in, you're going to see the core of the base passing game, the quick game, which I kind of redefined just through my own work. Some of the extended passes that have evolved over time, and then run game, screen game, access to. And a lot of stuff's been out there in terms of like the film, like not the film, some of the clinics and the playbooks and those things, but trying to make it all in one area. And then at some point, which is locked right now, there'll be a decently expansive film library. On the site, you're going to have the diagrams, plenty of film to study with all the adjustments and things underneath in diagram form, and its contributions from Coach June Jones, Coach Dan Morrison, Coach Jeff Reinbold, Coach Wes Swan, and Coach Dennis McKnight. So the material that they've given me over the years is there, and plus their statements. I think other things that they've made that are on there. So everything on the site is authentic from the main source, and over time, things will expand a bit, but there's plenty. Basically, it's all there. It's not going to be a 2-minute snippet or anything like that. You're going to have there's hours of film, hours worth of clinics, hours for the concepts. And then whatever's not fitting underneath that page, there'll be the library you can go to learn more or watch full game footage for your own study. So everything I've had over the last 15 or so years, is going to be made accessible. And there's going to be some things that those who have also tried over the years to study hard or are also within the cult, which hopefully it will not be considered one for forever, is there. So there's going to be some things that some people may have. There's going to be majority that people do not have. Everything from just the fundamental. I forgot to mention that all the fundamental drills on how it's actually ran, the video, a voiceover video from the coaches on all those things, technique, quarterbacks, O-line, receivers, running backs, and then kind of philosophy. And the hope is as this expands and more people do things, more people can contribute those things, so it can grow, and so it can raise people's interest and knowledge. Because it may not be me, it may be another coach where you're one coach away from somebody taking it to another level, and learning something and attributing what they learn to what they do. And even if it's not a coach who's going to be a run and shoot guy, but they can say, hey, I took something away from this as we go back to learning. That's what it is. That's the purpose, and to be selfless, remove ego, remove, secrecy. And I think the best way to protect any system is to help it grow and help each other, grow. Because as much as I have been very fortunate and to learn, there's also things that I don't know, and there's different entities and branches of the offense that somebody out there may have that I'm like, hey, maybe I can apply that. And if my career, anybody's career extends beyond, what can you bring in? And so yeah, really just hoping that it grows in time, and really also just trying to keep it clean and simple, not trying to overwhelm it, and be able to have, meetings and conversations if somebody wants to, to learn more, and, really just help other people. I would say if you are content with, secure with what you're not worried about what you give away.
What is something that you see in pro football or college football that you say that's from the run and shoot? And maybe people wouldn't realize that today, but that's really where it comes from.
Every single team in the National Football League runs a version or concepts or principles of the run and shoot. Every single team does. Every single team. You can go back in history, and there was spread football before Tiger Ellison. Even if you go back to Paul Brown, there was spread football. Dutch Meyer, which in his opening statement in his own book was spread formations are not new to the game of football. And actually, it's funny you mentioned, I just bought that book a couple weeks ago, and I've read it 100 times, but I haven't been able to buy it. And I am excited about it because it's a gem. And I really bought it because of that one sentence in that book. I'm amazed by that. But the first concept of option routes, which is there's often this misconception, started with Tiger Ellison. There's no playbook. If someone proves me wrong, I would love that because I love the history of the game. But there's no playbook or anything that comes before that 1952-53 season before Ellison that shows guys just adjusting routes on the fly. So every single team in the National Football League runs option routes. They just do. In college football, it's growing more and more. as well. I would say I would say almost all of them have some sort of a deal. But I would say there's more air raid teams. I know not all air raid teams have conversions. It's just unique that in the National Football League, which every coach who has goal aspires to to be there. It's just unique how teams don't want to say they're a run and shoot team that has adapted to different things. Instead, they are a different system that has run and shoot principles. Whereas you look at the West Coast offense, nobody's running that pure version of the West Coast anymore either, which took the NFL by storm. But they're now a West Coast offense that does things a little bit differently. So there's been a history where the run and shoot's gotten a black eye to say you're a run and shoot. But the reality is, I mean, you don't have to say it, but some teams run a lot more of it than others. I'll say that. And, make no mistake, the run and shoot offense is a professional offense. It is a pro style offense that even in its purest form at one point was terrorizing the National Football League. And you can say, well, it didn't win. Warren Moon. I mean, Jim Kelly was running the K gun, but
yeah,
there's a little, yeah, well, there's, taboo to say it, but even with the Gamblers was breaking, records. But they were taking a lot of organizations that were not highly successful, and they were improving them, and they were getting to divisional and conference championship games. And it was, well, they didn't win the whole thing. Well, they were also taking over, which a lot of run and shoot coaches have, organization programs that haven't had a lot of success.
They're running it for a reason, because they're not big and as strong as other teams, and this gives them an advantage by having a guy. Everybody's got a baseball player. Everybody do. So, yeah, that becomes your quarterback.
So, and so that to answer your question a little more clear, it's everywhere, and I think what will help that is the more knowledgeable provide in understanding that this is where a lot of it comes from. The fact that Miles Davis, for instance, and even June aren't mentioned enough in these podcasts about what these guys are running is crazy to me. That said, the NFL is the NFL, and the NFL does evolve. And even myself, I'm doing my best to study where the league is at now with that. But also,
you also got fade. Is the back shoulder fade? Is that run and shoot?
I don't know, actually. I don't know if it wouldn't shock me if it was. I think, and I don't know this for sure, I think the back shoulder fade was Coryell. I think Coryell might have been really introduced the back shoulder fade. And you put in Coryell just got into the Hall of Fame. After he passes away, he revolutionized football. And people don't appreciate that enough, and people are still running his system to this day. I think it, for me on a personal level, it's regardless of what you run, I don't think there's any wrong way to run things. And I do think that every system can evolve, and I just think it's important to give the rightful nod and appreciation to the history, behind it. You've heard Belichick in several press conferences talk about the impact of the run shoot on the history of the game, and the difficulty to cover that. Barry Sanders was a run and shoot running back, but we don't give it the just due that it should. And for me, regardless of where my career goes, high school, college, or whatever beyond, it's I think it's important to always give credit where it's due. And so much of the NFL and these coaches are running run and shoot concepts or principles, whether they know it or not. And I think it's important to recognize that. So hopefully we can raise awareness in football.
So we probably got about 10 minutes left, Marcus. In this 10 minutes, what would you like these guys to know about the run and shoot? Or what do you see your vision for this website being?
So really, for the vision and the purpose is a place for coaches to communicate, collaborate, meet, and really help grow the game of football as a whole by providing knowledge and insight into the run and shoot offense, and help the offense grow, and help people learn it, and maybe selflessly a little bit become more attracted to it, and giving it a shot and really making it accessible. Again, it goes back to the key point you put in. Everything's about growing the game and sharing knowledge. None of the things on the site. I mean, I had to do my own little quick game stuff, but none of the stuff on the site is anything that I invented, claiming to be my own. And so that's why I'm, ask permission. Can I, provide this information? I just want to help grow the game. I want to have coaches collaborate, get together. Maybe at some time we'll be able to, hold a clinic, in person, run camps, anything of that nature. So, whether a coach is in high school, college, pro, there's youth, but anyway, youth through pro ball, whether it's the NFL, XFL, Canadian League, overseas, and in the ELF, whatever the case is, that there's a community where people can collaborate and help grow and network with each other. I think something that happens a lot of times is people look at a coach and the success that a coach has had with a system, and then they say, that's a system I want to run, rather than looking at the process of a system. Well, every coach who's run every system, even my mentors, has had, myself included, has had really rough seasons, but they stick to the process of what they run. Whether it's run and shoot, air raid, West Coast, Coryell, Earhart Perkins offense, you name it. Wishbone, wing tee, shout out to those Colts as well. We all wish we were like you. Maybe not the same way, but so I hope years down the road that there's somebody who can take this, and whether they make it their own or take the chunk of it and grow it, because 15 years goes by fast, as we both know, and 15 years is going to go by even faster, and then another 15 is going to go by, and then it's going to be, well, what did I do with all this?
Yeah, basically you're putting it in a library. You're putting it in an online library to share with the world.
And yeah, and the only way your legacy is wins and losses are going to be there, records are going to be there, but your legacy is what you share. My favorite quote of all time from my favorite movie, Gladiator, is, what we do in life echoes in eternity. So if you put it in the vault, like you said, no one's gonna know it. And it's not. It's more so for me. I want the people who started this and how much it's helped me grow as a coach, and guys like you and Mountjoy, Beatty, etc. On top of that stuff, to say, hey, here it is, and help it grow and help other people grow, because that's in the end going to be that's going to be the legacy. And it'd be great for coaches who are struggling maybe with it to say, communicate with other coaches who are having successes, coaches who are having success, find different way to do things. And even myself, I talk to coaches who run it and say, hey, this is the way I've done it. And I go, man, if I had that 2 years ago, I wouldn't have gotten crushed in a couple of games here and there. So, and then more than anything, I want people to know really how fun it is. The game of football, regardless of level, is supposed to be fun, and it's a great way to play the game. You teach your players a pro style approach. It helps them become better college football players, which is, I think, my favorite part of it. They have a lot of fun and they become better football players and understanding football. And if your seasons are going great, it's fun. If you're having a rough patch, you still have a culture where they're enjoying the game. And if you're taking it to the college level and beyond, it's only going to help you succeed there, because you're going to have a level of knowledge that is required at that level. You cannot go into the National Football League, and I have not been there, so I'm not judging or casting any knowledge out there. But studying the run and shoot offense will only help you. It doesn't, even if you don't want to, it will only help you grow as a coach. And it'll always be a part of what I do, whether I'm in charge of doing it in its entirety or modifying it to fit my personnel best. You cannot be hurt by studying the run and shoot. It's only going to enhance your knowledge and your ability to coach the game.
So how can guys get a hold of you? What is the website's address, Marcus?
So it's simple. You'd be shocked that it's not taken yet, but it's runandshootoffense.com. And they'll be up there. My contact info will be up there. All you got to do is register. I'll see your info. Please fill the whole form out, and then just give me time, and I'll you'll have access. And the only thing that I would charge for, though I don't think anyone's going to necessarily need it, would be if you wanted me to help you install the whole, install and clinic and stuff like that. But I think there'll be enough meetings and content up there, and having coaches, come in, some of the OGs come in and do some virtual clinics that, and just collaboration that I don't think you're going to necessarily need that. So, runandshootoffense.com. You can contact me via the form, and I'll put my my contact info out there as well. And hopefully people just enjoy and take something from it.
Thank you, Marcus. You're the best, brother. Stay on here, okay?
Absolutely.